I always thought grief was supposed to make families come together, cry together, hold hands, lean on each other. But on the day of my grandmother's funeral, my family showed me exactly what I meant to them. And let me tell you, I will never forget that humiliation. My name is Elena, and my grandmother, Margaret Lawson, was the only person in my family who ever treated me like I mattered. She called me Sunbeam. She taught me how to sew. She taught me how to cook. She taught me how to fight for my voice when the world tried to silence me. She was the woman who raised my father, and the woman he spent my entire life pretending he didn't need. But I needed her. And when she died, it felt like the world cracked open. I wasn't prepared for the grief. I wasn't prepared for the silence. And I definitely wasn't prepared for the public humiliation my father had planned. The morning of the funeral was cold, darker than usual. A heavy gray fog hung over the cemetery, swallowing everything. I arrived early, wearing the navy dress Grandma always said made me look classy and powerful. My father, Roy, stood near the front row, arms folded, giving orders like he was directing a corporate event. He didn't even look at me. "Hi, Dad," I said quietly. He grunted. A grunt. That was it. I swallowed hard, walked toward the front where the family row was, and before I could sit, he stepped in front of me. Not there. I blinked. What? That row is for family. My mouth fell open. "I am family," I whispered. He shook his head, jaw tight. "No immediate family only." I looked behind him. My cousins, who lived states away and barely visited Grandma, were sitting there with their spouses and kids. Dad looked me straight in the eyes and said, "Go sit in the back." It felt like the air was sucked out of my lungs. "Are you serious?" I whispered. "Grandma practically raised me. He cut me off with a look. Cold, distant, final. "Don't cause a scene, Elena." I felt every pair of eyes burning into me. My aunt avoided eye contact. My cousins whispered. My father turned his back like I was nothing. I stood frozen, humiliated, while he arranged the seating chart of his perfect little image. My grandmother's coffin sat at the front, and I, her closest granddaughter, was told to sit in the back. As I walked toward the last row, my heels echoing against the stone path, my face burned with shame.
I sat down and stared at my shaking hands. I wanted to leave. I wanted to scream. I wanted to stand up and demand respect. But this wasn't about pride. This was about her, Grandma. So I stayed. But in the middle of the service, while the pastor spoke about Grandma's generosity and kindness, my father kept glancing back at me, not with remorse, with irritation, like my existence ruined the aesthetics of his grief. And that's when something inside me shifted. I wasn't just sad anymore. I was angry. Grandma always said, "Sunbeam, don't ever let them dim you." And oh, Dad had been dimming me for years. But not today. Not anymore. When the service ended, people gathered for the reading of the will at Grandma's old church office. My father walked ahead with the confidence of a man who assumed everything belonged to him. But as I followed the crowd, something caught my sleeve. Mrs. Green, Grandma's closest friend. "Elena," she whispered, her eyes soft, "your grandmother loved you more than you know. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." I nodded, tears burning. Mrs. Green squeezed my hand. "And stay strong in there." Margaret made sure her voice would be heard. Before I could ask what she meant, she walked away. A cold shiver crept up my spine. Grandma planned something? Inside the church office, we sat around a long wooden table, or rather, everyone else sat, and I stood in the back again because Dad refused to make space. The lawyer, Mr. Townsend, entered with a thick binder. He adjusted his glasses. "Thank you all for coming. Mrs. Lawson's final wishes are very clear, and she insisted they be read today, with all family members present." Dad smirked. "All immediate family members," he emphasized. Mr. Townsend looked around the room, then his eyes landed on me. His brows furrowed. "Miss Elena Lawson, why are you standing back there?" Dad interjected before I could speak. "She isn't." "She is. The granddaughter Margaret specifically asked to be present." Mr. Townsend interrupted firmly. Everyone turned to stare at Dad.
His face twitched. "She can stand," he muttered. Mr. Townsend slammed his binder shut. "No, she cannot." The room went silent. The lawyer stepped toward me. "Miss Lawson, please come sit in front." Dad's jaw clenched so hard I heard it pop. I sat directly across from him. He looked like he wanted to flip the table. And right there, in the middle of that tension, that silence, that electricity, Mr. Townsend began reading the will. And within the first 2 paragraphs, I realized Grandma had known. She had known how Dad treated me. She had known how he minimized me, ignored me, pushed me away. She had known exactly what was coming, and she had prepared for it. Before the big reveal, here's your quick reminder. If you love emotional, dramatic stories with twists, make sure to subscribe to Scarlight Stories for more. Now, back to the will. Mr. Townsend flipped the page. "To my son Roy, you have made your choices, and now I make mine." A ripple of shock moved around the room. Dad's smile cracked. I felt the air shift. Something big was coming. Something that would flip the entire room and my father's entitlement upside down. I didn't cry until the car door shut behind me. Not because I wasn't heartbroken, but because I'd trained myself for years not to show emotion in front of my father, not to give him the satisfaction, not to let him see how deeply he could cut me with just a few words. But as soon as I sat in the back seat of my cousin Olivia's car, the dam broke. I covered my face with both hands, sobs shaking through my chest. "I banned me," I whispered between gasps. "From her funeral, from the front row, like I'm nothing?" Olivia reached over and grabbed my hand. "You're not nothing," she said firmly. "Your father is just a tyrant," I offered. "A control freak? A jerk?" She nodded. "All of the above." But then she squeezed my hand tighter. "And he is about to be very, very shocked." I frowned. "What does that mean?" She hesitated. Her brown eyes flicked away for a second. The kind of hesitation that holds secrets. "Liv, what do you know?" She exhaled slowly. "Look, I'm not supposed to say anything yet, but let's just say Grandma wasn't blind. She knew how he treated you, and she didn't forget it. A spark of something, hope, confusion, flickered in my chest. But before I could ask more, we pulled up to the church. I saw the line of black suits, the somber faces, the massive flower arrangements shaped into crosses and hearts. And there, right at the top of the steps, giving orders like he was directing a Broadway show, my father. He spotted me getting out of the car. His face twisted instantly, like even my presence stained the air he breathed. I stepped onto the pavement. He marched toward me. "Why are you here?" he snapped. "I know what you said, but I'm still her granddaughter. I'm still family." His lip curled. He looked me up and down, the black dress I'd ironed twice, the necklace Grandma gave me when I was 12, the trembling hands I hid behind my purse. "There is no place for you at the front. Do you understand?" Something inside me hardened. For the first time in my life, I didn't shrink. "I understand you don't want me there, but you don't get to erase me." His eyes flickered, a flash of something. Annoyance? Surprise? Fear? Before he could respond, Pastor Lee stepped between us. "Everyone is welcome inside," he said firmly, patting my shoulder. "Including you, dear." My father shot the pastor a look that could curdle milk. But he didn't argue. Instead, he leaned in close and hissed, "Sit anywhere except the first 3 rows. If you embarrass me today, I swear." "I'm not here for you. I'm here for Grandma." His jaw clenched. Then he stormed off. Olivia slipped beside me. "That was intense." "Always is," I murmured. We walked inside together. The sanctuary buzzed with quiet whispers, the soft hum of sad hymns playing through the speakers. Every pew filled fast. The entire right side, reserved for family, was nearly packed. And there, right at the top of the front, row 1, my father sat with his arms stretched across the seat next to him, blatantly blocking it. His message was loud enough for the whole church. Not for her. Not for me. Olivia started to lead me toward the left side, but something stopped me. Something deep. Something fierce. Grandma's voice echoed in my memory. "Stand up straight, baby. Don't let anyone push you into the shadows. You belong anywhere you choose to be." So I inhaled, lifted my chin, and I walked straight down the aisle. My heels clicked against the polished floor, every step a heartbeat. My father's head snapped around, his eyes narrowed. I stopped right beside him, and with the entire church watching, I said, "I'm sitting with the family." His voice came out low, dangerous. "No, you're not." But before I could respond, someone behind me whispered, "Let her sit." I turned. 2 of my grandmother's closest friends, women who'd known me since I was in kindergarten, nodded approvingly. Another relative chimed in. She was closer to Margaret than any of us. Let her stay. A ripple of quiet agreement spread. My father's face went red. He leaned in, jaw rigid. "You're not winning this." I whispered back, "I'm not playing." He exhaled sharply through his nose, the way he always did when he realized he wasn't in control. But he didn't move his arm, didn't make room. It was Olivia who finally stepped forward and slid into the seat between us, forcing him to yank his arm back with a muttered curse. I took the spot beside her. My hands trembled as I placed them in my lap. I had made it. To the front row. To the place where I belonged. Where Grandma would have wanted me. Except the victory was short-lived. Because the moment the pastor stepped up to begin the service, 3 men in suits slipped quietly into the front aisle. Not church staff. Not ushers. Lawyers. And every head in the pews turned. My father stiffened beside us. One of the lawyers cleared his throat. "Before we begin," he said gently, "Ms. Margaret Hall requested that her will be read immediately following this service, with all close family present." My father relaxed,
He smirked. Of course he did. He thought everything belonged to him. Grandma's house, Grandma's savings, Grandma's business shares. He was about to be very, very rich, and he wanted me nowhere near that moment. But the lawyer wasn't finished. And she instructed us to begin the reading with a private letter addressed to her granddaughter. My breath stopped. The entire church murmured. My father shut up halfway out of his seat. What? No, there must be some mistake. The lawyer shook his head calmly. No mistake, Mr. Hall. In fact, he glanced at me. She left instructions that her granddaughter must be seated in the front row to receive it. The room spun. Olivia squeezed my hand. My father's jaw fell open, and the lawyer continued. If she is not here, the reading cannot proceed. My father's nostrils flared. Everyone stared. Everyone knew. Grandma wanted me here. Grandma chose me. Grandma planned for this. And in that moment, I felt the dull ache of grief mixed with something bright and fierce. Vindication. My father sank slowly back into his seat, defeated. The pastor nodded and began the service. But my mind wasn't on the prayers or hymns. It was on one burning question. What did Grandma leave me? And why did my father look terrified? The room went silent after Mr. Halden, Grandma's lawyer, said those 3 words. Olivia gets everything. Every breath in that funeral home felt like it stopped. My father, who had been puffed up like a peacock minutes earlier, suddenly deflated in his seat. His face turned a strange shade of red, like he was about to explode or pass out. My stepmother, Melissa, blinked rapidly, like her brain couldn't compute what she'd just heard. And my half-sister, Brianna, she looked enraged. The kind of rage that comes from entitlement, from always being the golden child. As for me, for the first time since my grandmother's death, I felt her presence in the room. Warm, steady, protective. Mr. Halden cleared his throat, adjusting his glasses. He said, to clarify, Olivia Harper, granddaughter of the deceased, is the sole beneficiary of the estate. That includes the house, financial accounts, stocks, jewelry, and assets totaling approximately $4.7 million. Murmurs broke out immediately. My heart slammed against my ribs. $4.7 million? I knew she was comfortable. But that number was unreal. Dad shot to his feet. This is ridiculous, he shouted. I'm her son. Mr. Halden nodded politely. Yes, and she included you in the letter she asked me to read after the will. He blinked. There's a letter? Yes, Mr. Halden said, reaching into the briefcase. Mrs. Harper wanted a personal message read after announcing her beneficiary. My father dropped back into a seat, arms crossed, jaw jutting out in defiance. Fine, he muttered. Let's hear it. But the lawyer didn't start reading. Instead, he looked at me. Olivia, he said gently, your grandmother requested that you stand next to me while I read this. My breath caught. I walked slowly to the front of the room. Every pair of eyes burned into me. Dad looked furious. But Grandma never cared about his anger, not even when she was alive. Mr. Halden unfolded the letter. The paper trembled slightly in his hand. Or maybe that was me. He began to read. My dearest Olivia, if this letter is being read, then I am gone from this world. My throat tightened already. I know your father will be angry right now. He always is, isn't he? A couple people in the back snorted. I hid a sad smile. Grandma always had a sense of humor. I raised your father, and I love him, but love doesn't blind me. He lost his way a long time ago. When your mother died, he stopped being a father to you. I watched him break you down piece by piece while asking why you were fragile. I looked down, blinking away tears. I saw everything he dismissed. Your birthdays he forgot. The school performances he skipped. The bruised feelings. The loneliness. And still, somehow, you grew into a gentle, thoughtful, beautiful young woman. Dad folded his arms tighter, glaring. I knew even then that if anything ever happened to me, he would try to take what was never his. Melissa gasped. Brianna looked like she wanted to tear something in half. And so, I made sure he couldn't. A heavy silence filled the room. My estate belongs entirely to Olivia, because she is the only one who treated me with love, not expectation. She never asked me for a penny. She never cared about my money. Only my company. I wiped a tear. To my son, if you are angry right now, remember this. I gave you the chance to be in her life. You chose to abandon your daughter. Do not punish her for your failures. Dad's nostrils flared violently. To Melissa, stop teaching your daughter to be cruel. It's unbecoming. A loud ripple of laughter broke through the room. Melissa looked like she'd swallowed a lemon. To Brianna, get off your high horse. Life will humble you eventually, and I'd hate for it to hurt when you fall. Brianna shot to her feet. Unbelievable! She hated me!
No, Mr. Halden said calmly. She disliked your attitude. More laughter. He continued, and to my sweet girl, Olivia, don't be afraid. Don't let them intimidate you. Don't let them guilt you. I left you everything because you deserve a future that is yours without strings. Use it wisely. Live freely. Love deeply. And remember, you were always my favorite hello and my hardest goodbye. The letter ended. The room was quiet except for my shaky breathing. Then, suddenly, clap, clap, clap. It was Aunt Ruth, Grandma's sister. She stood applauding, eyes shining. About time someone said it, she said loudly. A few others joined in, not clapping for me, clapping for Grandma's truth. Dad slammed his hand on the arm of his chair. This is insane, he roared. I don't accept this. Mr. Halden lifted an eyebrow. You don't have to accept it. You just have to abide by it. Melissa tried a different tactic. We took care of her too, you know, she said snootily. The lawyer nodded. Yes, she left each of you a small sentimental gift. He opened a small box. For you, Melissa, she left her cookbook with the note, maybe now you'll stop poisoning dinner. Someone burst out laughing so hard they snorted. Melissa looked like she might faint. And for Brianna, the lawyer continued, opening an envelope, he handed it over. Brianna tore it open and read aloud before she could think. Stop treating people like they owe you something. Start earning the respect you demand. She gasped, like she'd been slapped. Then Dad stood again. Red, furious, shaking. This will is biased, he barked. I'll fight it. I'll sue. Mom wasn't of sound mind. Everyone knows that. People murmured nervously, but the lawyer remained perfectly calm. Mrs. Harper passed every capacity test 3 different times. She recorded a video will as well. The blood drained from Dad's face. A video? Yes, said the lawyer, in which she specifically says, and I quote, if my son tries to contest this, tell him I raised a fool, not a beneficiary. More laughter.
Dad looked like his soul left his body. But he wasn't done. Not even close. He rounded on me. "This is your fault," he spat. "You manipulated her. You poisoned her against me." I stared up at him.
"No, Dad," I said quietly. "You did that all by yourself." His jaw clenched, and I knew, right then, that something ugly was coming. Because men like him don't lose gracefully. They explode. They destroy. They take. And I felt the shift, the danger, the warning. This wasn't over, not even close. I could see it in his eyes. He was planning something big, something about the money, something about me. And the worst part? I had no idea what it was. But I was about to find out, because the next day, he served me with papers. When the lawyer said my name, not my father's, not my brother's, not my aunts or uncle's, mine. The entire room turned toward me like a single creature. I felt the air shift, heavy and electrified. My father went rigid. My stepmother's jaw dropped. My brother whispered, "No way," under his breath. I didn't move. I didn't blink. I didn't breathe. All I could think was, what did Grandma do? The lawyer, Mr. Carver, adjusted his reading glasses and continued calmly, as if he didn't just ignite a bomb in the center of the funeral hall. "Your grandmother requested that all reading pertaining to her estate be presented with complete transparency, and with everyone present." My father's face flushed bright red. "Hold on," he snapped. "This isn't necessary. We can discuss family matters privately." Mr. Carver didn't even look up. She insisted it was public. There was no arguing with that. Dad swallowed hard, his mouth twitching like he was chewing gravel. My chest tightened. Grandma had known. She'd known there'd be drama. She'd known Dad would try to hide it. She'd known a storm was coming. And she'd prepared her will like a shield for me. The lawyer continued, "Your grandmother loved all of you, but she took very seriously how she was treated in her final years." My father snapped, "I visited her." Mr. Carver raised an eyebrow, very subtle, very deadly. "You visited her 3 times, he corrected. "In 5 years. A gasp rippled across the room. Dad's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "And her caretaker records show," the lawyer added, "that each visit was under 20 minutes. I felt my stomach twist, because I'd been there. I'd watched Dad breeze in with flowers someone else bought him, and breeze out before Grandma could ask him to sit. Then, Mr. Carver looked at me. "But you, Olivia, you visited her every Wednesday and Saturday." A few people turned toward me, some tenderly, some with surprise. My throat tightened. I remembered all those visits. Braiding her hair, helping her with her sippers, showing her silly cat videos because she loved watching kittens fall off couches. I remembered her laugh, this soft, gentle, breathy laugh she only had left in her final months. I remembered brushing her hair the night before she passed. Dad jumped up suddenly. "This is ridiculous. She's exaggerating. My mother was confused. "No," the lawyer said sharply. "Your mother was very clear." He picked up a sealed envelope. Then he said something that made my heart stop. "She left a letter." Dad froze. Stepmom stiffened. My brother looked like someone had slapped him. But the letter wasn't for them. It was for me. I felt my breath vanish. "Shall I read it aloud?" the lawyer asked. I nodded. My voice didn't work. He opened it carefully, like it was something sacred, because to me it was. And in Grandma's shaky handwriting, he read, "My dearest Olivia, I know your father will try to push you aside today. He does it out of pride, but it still hurts you. You've always been the gentle one, the one who sits with people instead of stepping over them. You held my hand when it shook. You brushed my hair when I couldn't lift my arms. You listened to me ramble when everyone else said they were too busy. You made an old woman feel seen. So if you're hearing this, I need you to know something. I am not leaving you scraps. I am not leaving you leftovers. I am leaving you what you have earned through love. I covered my mouth as tears threatened to fall. Dad muttered, "She's manipulating the situation." Mr. Carver lifted a hand, silencing him. Then he read the final lines. "Don't let your father take this from you. He took too much from me. Enough is enough."
I couldn't breathe. Dad slammed his palm onto the table. This is insane. My mother was not in her right mind. The entire room tensed. Mr. Carver said slowly, "Your mother underwent 3 cognitive evaluations in the last 2 years. All showed full mental clarity. We also have multiple video recordings of her confirming her decisions." Dad sat down abruptly, because that meant, legally, he was trapped. My stepmother muttered under her breath, "This can't be happening." My brother leaned forward, voice shaking with hope or fear. I couldn't tell which. What exactly did she leave Olivia? Yes, that was the question sucking all the oxygen from the room. Was it sentimental letters, family jewelry, a small trust, or something bigger? Mr. Carver straightened the stack of documents, and then he dropped the bomb. Your grandmother's largest asset, the one valued at $4.7 million, goes entirely to Olivia. Silence. Then, "What?" Dad roared, leaping up. My stepmother grabbed his arm. My brother covered his mouth. People in the room whispered like wildfire. I blinked, stunned. What? I whispered. Mr. Carver nodded. Yes, the house, the lake property, the land, the pension bonds, the savings, the investments. He took a breath. And all of it. My knees buckled. Daniel's cousin grabbed a chair and pushed it behind me just in time. Dad stormed toward the table. "This is outrageous. She can't give all that to some ungrateful—" The lawyer slammed his briefcase shut. "She could and she did. And I will remind you, Richard, there are witnesses, doctors, recordings, and legal video confirmations." Dad's nostrils flared. "But she was my mother. And she chose to leave her legacy to the person who honored her." The room shook with tension. My father pointed at me, finger trembling with rage. "You're not getting away with this." The threat was unmistakable. "I'll contest it. I'll drag this through court. I'll drain every penny before you ever touch it." I swallowed hard, because I believed him. He would burn the earth if it meant I suffered. But then Mr. Carver smiled, not kindly.
Strategically. Actually, Richard, she anticipated that. Dad froze. "What do you mean?" The lawyer opened a separate envelope. "A clause," he said, added in her final revision. He read slowly. "If Richard contests my will in any way, he is to receive nothing, not even sentimental items." Dad went silent. "And," the lawyer continued, "he must repay every dollar borrowed from me over the last 20 years, within 90 days. Dad's mouth fell open. Stepmom gasped. My brother whispered, "Holy crap!" The lawyer's voice was unwavering. "That totals $486,000. Dad staggered backward like he'd been hit. My heartbeat thudded in my ears. And then the lawyer finished. "Your mother left strict instructions that her will be honored. And she chose Olivia because Olivia honored her." Dad looked at me, with fury, with betrayal, with disbelief.
But beneath all that, I saw something else. Fear. Because the piles of secrets Grandma had quietly kept track of, those were about to swallow him whole. And I knew it wasn't over yet. Not even close. The biggest reveal still hadn't been read, because Grandma had left something else behind, a confession, one she wanted everyone to hear. People think the reading of a will is quiet, respectful, almost sacred, but not in my family, and definitely not when $4.7 million is involved. By the time the lawyer cleared his throat and asked everyone to sit, emotions were boiling over like a pot no one remembered to turn off. My father sat in the front, red-faced, fists clenched, still furious that Grandma had dared embarrass him by seating me, the daughter he treated like an inconvenience, beside her in the front row. A place of honor, a place he'd told me I didn't deserve. My stepmother, Denise, sat next to him, whispering sharp little sentences behind her hand. My half-sister, Amber, scrolled on her phone, annoyed the funeral was taking forever. Meanwhile, I sat quietly, hands folded, stomach in knots, because ever since Grandma died, something had felt off, like she knew something the rest of us didn't. The lawyer adjusted his glasses and opened the thick envelope. Per Margaret Ellison's request, this reading will be done in sequence and in full. Dad huffed.
Can we move it along? We have a long drive home. The lawyer gave him a calm but devastating look. I would advise you to stay for every word, Mr. Ellison. Margaret was thorough. A few people chuckled. Dad did not. The lawyer began. My estate shall be divided between those who honored me in life, not just in death. My stomach tightened. Dad shifted in his chair. She always loved her dramatic speeches, he muttered. The lawyer continued. To my son, Robert Ellison, Dad straightened, a smug smile forming, I leave $1. The room exploded with gasps. Dad shot to his feet. $1? $1? Is this a joke? The lawyer flipped the page calmly. No joke. She included a note for you. He pulled a separate paper from the envelope and read, Robert, you have lived your entire adulthood believing money makes a man. It doesn't. Character does. And you lost yours long ago. Dad's face went purple. This is ridiculous. She was old. She didn't know what she was. The lawyer raised a hand. There's more. He continued reading. You tried to block my granddaughter from my funeral. You humiliated her on the most sacred day of grief. You have belittled her, dismissed her, and kept her at arm's length since she was 8 years old. The breath left my lungs. She knew. She had noticed everything. The lawyer continued. A father who cannot treat his own daughter with kindness does not deserve the blessings of her success, nor the fruits of mine. Dad sank slowly back into his chair, stunned. Denise looked around, furious that people were witnessing this. Amber lifted her phone and whispered, Oh my God, recording everything. The lawyer turned the page. To my granddaughter, Mia Ellison. The world slowed down. I felt every heartbeat, every inhale, every memory of Grandma's hand holding mine, every secret smile she gave me when Dad wasn't looking. The lawyer read, My sweet girl, you have been my pride, my joy, my quiet companion, the one who brought light into all my heavy days. Tears blurred my vision. I tightened my grip on my purse, trying not to break down in front of everyone. I saw every bruise on your heart that your father caused, every cold dismissal, every cruel exclusion, every time he made you feel small. Dad clenched his jaw.
People stared at him, judgment clear. You deserved better, and now you will have it. The room held its breath. To Mia, I leave my home, my land,
My savings, and all remaining assets. Denise gasped loudly. That's everything! The lawyer nodded. Yes, the entire $4.7 million estate. My ears rang. I blinked hard. Had I heard that right? Dad slammed his hand on the pew. Absolutely not. She can't do that. I'm her son. The lawyer closed the folder calmly. She can, and she did. People whispered. Some smirked. Some stared in awe. Dad stood, shaking with rage. She manipulated her. She turned her against me. This is a misunderstanding. The lawyer sighed. There's one more note. He opened a thin envelope. She wrote this specifically for today, Robert. Dad froze. The lawyer read, If you try, in any way, to contest this will, harass Mia, or attempt to seize what is hers, Dad leaned forward defiantly. Then you will activate a legal clause I added just for you. The room went silent. The note continued. You will be required to repay every loan I have quietly covered for you over the last 20 years. Dad staggered. What loans? The lawyer folded his hands. Your mother paid off your credit card debt, your foreclosure notices, your failed business loans, your tax penalties, your car default, and your gambling debts. Gasps rippled again. Dad's face crumbled. Denise whispered, horrified, You gambled again? Robert? The lawyer added, The total comes to $984,000. Dad swayed like he might faint. The lawyer finished, If you contest the will, you owe the estate every penny. Dad collapsed back into his seat. He looked 10 years older in 10 seconds. For the first time in my life, he was silent. The lawyer turned to me.
There's one more thing. He opened a sealed box. Inside was Grandma's locket, her favorite one, her wedding photo inside. And mine. When you were 10, he said softly, Margaret asked me to order this custom-made for you. She wanted to give it to you on your 21st birthday. Tears spilled down my cheeks. She said you needed to know, he added gently, that you were never forgotten, never unwanted, not by her. I held the locket in my shaking hands. My heart felt like it was breaking and healing at the same time. Then he said, And she left a message for you. He handed me a small card. I opened it with trembling fingers. Mia, you were always meant to lead this family, not follow it. Live boldly, and never let anyone force you to sit in the back again. I pressed the card to my chest, sobbing quietly. For the first time since I was a child, I felt seen, loved, protected, chosen. Daniel and Amber both looked at me with awe. Even Denise seemed shaken. But my father, he looked like a defeated man staring at the ruins of his own making. As we walked out of the church, the sunlight hit my face. Warm, soft, freeing. I slipped Grandma's locket around my neck. Someone behind me whispered, She deserved it. Someone else said, She earned it. But all I heard was Grandma's voice in my memory. Front row, sweetheart. You belong here. And for the first time in my life, I believed her. Thank you for reading this story. If you love emotional, dramatic stories with twists, make sure you subscribe to Scarlight Stories.